Lately here in New York, we see a rush of crimes, crimes that are associated with mentally ill people roaming the streets. So I figure let's go back and see how this all happened, because I remember when I was a teenager, we didn't have stuff like this going on. There were like facilities that where people with mental problems, you know, they would be in an institution because society at the time believed they couldn't take care of themselves. Uh, then there was like Brookdale. That's another story out on Staten Island. That was a disaster. You know. And Gerardo Rivera did, like, I think now that's what he became famous for. He saw what was going on there. But anyway, the state, the health department, they do inspections every year. So you have to blame them too. You know, you're supposed to know what's going on. You can't just let mentally ill people be abused by staff. Now there are all kinds of stuff. You got to be fingerprinted. You got to do all kinds of stuff just to work in there. There's one place down in Brooklyn. Some years ago, they sent me down there. I think like 2 different agencies, and I had to be fingerprinted. Yeah, go through all that stuff. I never did work there though. I was never called, but you have to go through a lot of stuff. Background check. They do that. Check out, check your fingerprints. I believe with the state, the justice system here in New York. But anyway, here's the point here. Why we are and what we are today. Ronald Reagan and the federal deinstitutionalization of mentally ill patients. And this was written by Elaine Carmen Guerra. The lack of institutional care of critically mentally ill patients in the United States has become a complicated problem that has resulted in victimization, homelessness, and incarceration of these individuals. In 1967, the state of California was one of the first states to deinstitutionalize mentally ill patients when it passed the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act, Leon, 1984. This act had a profoundly negative impact on the lives of the mentally ill. So why would the Reagan administration choose to end the federal government's role in providing services to the mentally ill? From Pan 2013. Ronald Reagan, the 48th President of the United States, is well known for his fiscal policies that stimulated economic growth, cut inflation, and pulled America out of a recession. Yeah, that's true, because I got a job in the federal government when he was in office, Yeah, around 84 or so. I started working with federal. So he went out and hired like a lot of people because he had like high inflation in those days and high unemployment and so forth. What Reagan is not really known for is the long-term effect of a law he repealed that essentially deinstitutionalized mentally ill patients at the federal level. While some of his fiscal policies had a positive effect on the U.S. economy during the 1980s, his decision to deinstitutionalize mentally ill patients had a much more deleterious effect on these patients, their communities, and the agencies that were left to contend with these individuals' mental health issues. The Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act is the statute that repealed President Carter's Mental Health Systems Act, which was supposed to continue federal funding for mental health programs. Reagan gave the appearance of making a consequentialist ethical decision because he presented his repeal of OBRA as an action that would best serve American society and do more good than harm as a result. The OBRA gave mental patients a choice to seek treatment outside of a mental institution, an option to seek treatment at clinics at the state level, and the freedom to administer their own medication. However, Reagan was hasty in taking unsound advice to repeal OBRA because his real motive was to cut the federal budget. He was a leader who never exhibited any interest in the need for research. Well, you know what? With all these crimes and so forth, we see the result. You really believe that people who are mentally ill is going to be free and just show up at the clinic, right? Yeah, to get their mental health medication, like Thorazine and all that stuff. Maybe if they're drug addicts showing up, for methadone, yeah, sure. You see people line up showing up for methadone, but not for Thorazine. To be an ethical leader, one must attempt to gather as much knowledge as possible when making decisions, especially if one has the power to affect so many lives. The mentally ill are among the most vulnerable populations in society because most are unable to make sound decisions regarding their own care due to their mental state. The consequences of Reagan's social policy can be measured by the fact that today 1/3 of the homeless population are suffering from severe mental illness, which puts a burden on police departments, hospitals, and the penal system, which lack the training and resources to deal with psychiatric emergencies, according to Honberg 2015. Reagan's unethical choice to end federal funding for mental health programs was driven by the desire to cut the budget. As a result, he did much more harm than good. And we see the result of that, People like the woman who lost her life, the Asian lady, she was like 40 years old, came from California. Man pushed her down under the train tracks. She got killed. Then here there's a guy killed an Asian lady in Chinatown, followed her right up to the 6th floor of her apartment, stabbed her 40 times. Police got him. He's all bloody, blood all over, scratches all over, cuts all over. And he said, I didn't kill anybody. So that's the mark of a madman. He said, I didn't kill anybody. He's covered in blood. He has scratches all over him. He was hiding under the woman's bed. And he tells the, and you see him on TV saying, I didn't kill anybody. Well, this guy is show off his rocker. Somebody like that should have been in an institution. Sadly, like this goes back to the Reagan era, cutting all those taxes, and he did away, repealed Jimmy Carter's law that Jimmy Carter signed to help the mentally ill. And this is what we have now. Mentally ill, flooding Manhattan, all committing all kinds of crime to people, to innocent people.